Hello, my name is Makayla, and if you've never come across my channel before, I make a bunch of videos on academic sorts of things, vlogs. Today, I am going to be reviewing 8 note-taking methods that I have tried out. I think all students have had that universal experience where a teacher tells them you have to use Cornell Notes. I don't know why, at least that happened to me, and I hated being told what note-taking method to do. So this video is just going to inform you of the methods so that you can choose for yourself which one you think would be best for your learning style. And of course, what is more notorious than Cornell Notes? So I guess we can start with those. Cornell Notes, if you don't know, are where you have to kind of put the topic on the left column, and then you have like a wider right column where you put the actual notes. So it's kind of like a header and then the notes, and you add a new header and then like new category of notes. And then at the bottom of it all, you have your summary. Personally, I found that Cornell Notes, they're easy to go back and read because obviously you have the topics on the side so you can see what you're discussing and find your categorization quite easily. The summary at the bottom is efficient. If you're reviewing older notes and you don't quite remember what those notes are about, you can go back and be like, oh, okay, this was about this topic. Also, the left column can be limiting, I found, because sometimes I would only need like a couple words for that topic. So to actually put an entire topic on the left-hand side for it almost felt too dramatic for the note that I was going to be making, if that makes sense. And therefore there can be a bit of wasted space if you don't end up needing that whole entire line. I think that summary can also serve as a con because if you don't need the notes for long, then you're kind of just wasting your time summarizing what was written above. I would say that Cornell Notes are decent if you have the time and patience to do them. Okay, next are outline notes, and maybe I'm biased because I've always done these, but these were my favorite before, and after testing all these note-taking methods, these were my favorite again. I was really trying to be open-minded, like maybe I'll find a new note-taking method that I absolutely love. It didn't happen. I cannot recommend these enough. But basically it's like where you put the Roman numeral and then you can go in more with like letters and then bullet points, and it's just like subcategories. You can narrow the topics as much as necessary, just keep on going in with more bullet points, letters, etc. It's also easy to read because it just flows naturally from category to subcategory. And then you can do this for any kind of notes. If you're reading a book, if you're listening to a lecture, it works for anything. Again, like I said, I wanted to be open-minded, so I tried to come up with a con. It's that space can be wasted on the side because if you have like a Roman numeral and then you're going in, working your way in for the subcategories, there's some space on the left side that may not be used. I personally think this is a very trivial con, but I felt like I had to throw it in there just to show them like I'm trying not to be too biased about my favorite. Next is the infamous mind map. And a lot of people make these look beautiful. I'm not an artist, as you can see right here. Mine looks terrible. Maybe that's why I hated it so much, because I'm not artistic. I just thought it was like a glorified way of freestyling notes. I don't know. I'm not describing it properly. That doesn't make any sense. No, I think the issue with it is you don't know as you're taking the notes how much you're going to need for each category, because like if you're listening to a lecture or reading a book, like you don't know how much you're going to need of each section. So if you're doing your little bubbles and you're working your way into the corner and then you realize you have a lot more notes you need to take, then what do you do in that point? You have to get a new piece of paper and then tape them together. It just seems so impractical to me, and I don't understand why anyone would use a mind map. I don't want to like insult anyone's note-taking methods though, so if it works for you, I'm glad. But I at least failed at it. I was terrible at mind maps. And because of that, my notes just got very squished together. And then I tried like reviewing using them, and it's easy to miss them because you don't just read down the page. You're kind of like moving around randomly throughout the page. You can miss some of your notes. It's difficult to keep neat, and then, I mean, I had to come up with one pro, so I said that it allows a good big picture view because when you kind of take a step back and look at it, you can see how all the ideas interconnect. But I do not think that one pro is worth it at all. Next is the boxing method. I used to use this quite a bit because I used to make an annual packing list for our camping trip, and I used to love like making all these boxes of categories: sleeping category, bathroom category, and like, you know, just all the things we would need to pack. And in this sense, I think that boxing can be useful when you have these distinct categories of information that you need to separate from each other. It's also easy to review because you won't miss anything. You can just look at it and say, okay, here's the topic I'm reviewing. Everything in this box pertains to this subject. However, it is a bit inconvenient because if you discover you need to add more to those notes, it's boxed in. And unless you erase, you can't add into margins very easily because it's boxed in. And also, if your notes are very abstract and there's not clearly defined categories, then it's kind of useless because to make boxes, you need to have very distinct categories. Charted notes. These, I would say, are excellent. The only reason that I don't think they're the best one is because you can't really use them in all situations of note-taking. It's basically when you have categories at the top, categories on the side. So as you can see with my Spanish homework, I have the different verb tenses on the left, pronouns on the top, and then some irregular verbs, and it saves a lot of time. And like I said, the only thing about this is it's just gonna be a specific style of notes, otherwise it's not going to work. Holistic notes. Holistic notes are basically doodling. So like you kind of doodle as you take notes, drawing pictures that represent what you're learning, and to just kind of help with like visual images, I think. Mine, they were appalling. It was not good. Not only were my images terrible, but I couldn't come up with any pictures. Like I was just looking at my blank page thinking, what on earth could I draw to represent this point that I need to make? I would say if you're artistic, if you have ADHD and visual images help you, that sort of thing, then go for it. Otherwise, do not try to force yourself to do these. I found them to be completely unhelpful. So like, unless this is what your learning style needs, I wouldn't recommend it. It's messier, harder to read. You might not know in the future what you're drawing a picture of, so you might be like, okay, well, here's a picture of a turtle, but I don't know what that means for my notes. And because of this, it's not ideal for reviewing. The sentence method. I am in finals week right now, and I didn't want to copy down a bunch of full sentences because it's going to take a ton of time. My professor has these slides and he puts full sentences at the end of a review, and I thought that'd be a perfect example. So even though I didn't make these, I have been using them, and I just thought it would be better than me like actually just handwriting everything for no reason whatsoever. They're absolutely wonderful to review because it helps me with what's going to be on the quiz. And if you take full sentence notes, be aware that it's going to take a lot more time. I think the point of full sentence notes is to more so write down the summary of each idea rather than like all the details. This is good for reviewing. It just takes up a lot more time to write out, a lot more space to write out, and also you're gonna want to do it with a computer, I would say, because handwriting just will take too long with it. It's best to type. I am really monologuing here because now the sun is in my eyes. Sorry, I'm looking down. I'm reading my laptop because I cannot remember all of this for the video. But next is structured analysis. What this means is kind of like bulleted, very vague notes on the left and then an analysis on the right. So I usually do this when I'm planning my essays. As you can see here, I have copied a bunch of Rogue One notes for my Star Wars and religion class. And on the right, they're very vague notes. This isn't the best example, so I apologize for that. But then I have notes on kind of like ideas that I have for those quotes. So if it reminds me of like a metaphor or something, then I write that in the margin, and when I go back to it, I know what to do. I would say that structural analysis note-taking is really good for putting down your ideas, so it's good for creative work, that sort of thing. However, this is going to be absolutely useless if you're taking notes for memorization, because memorization, you don't need to analyze, you have to only memorize it. So it's a specific style of notes that will require this. And finally, it just takes up more time because you not only have to write those extra parts, but you have to kind of sit down and think about what you're going to analyze. So it does have that drawback too, but I think it's good for certain circumstances. But try each one, and I think it's worth giving them a shot because different styles do feel very different. It felt strange, for example, when I was in bio and I was drawing a mind map instead of doing my usual outlining. Definitely an interesting experience. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week.